Pro basketball fans, you're welcome to another episode on the show. My name is Slimo. I've got George and Teddy for another interesting discussion on the Pro basketball show. Now, before the season started, we had a lot of people have takes on this topic. Well, I'm speaking about the contenders for this year's NBA championship. Now, I will say it is difficult to win an NBA championship. The journey, the quest to make the NBA finals is not an easy one. And some teams usually have a legitimate chance of making the NBA finals. On this episode, we'll be taking something interesting, bringing something interesting to Prrrr. Contenders versus pretenders, where we'll be looking at major contenders where we have teams who definitely have a strong chance of making the NBA finals and going all the way. And we'll have pretenders who also have a chance but do not have what it takes to actually win that NBA championship. So on this segment, contenders versus pretenders, we'll be looking at 9 NBA teams who strongly have a chance. So we'll be picking each team one by one and assessing their chances and seeing if they're actually a contender or a pretender. I will be starting off with, of course, the 2022 NBA champions, Golden State Warriors. A very interesting one to start with. George, how do you view the Warriors season and how do you think it's going to go for them?
All right, so I picked them as contenders.
You've got the Warriors as a contender?
Yeah, I've got... You see, what separates a pretender from a contender is consistency and injuries. You look at the roster, you look at the players they have, you question, are there players on their team that are injury prone? You look at the Warriors side, I think most of their players are not injury prone. They are available.
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul coming into this Warriors side. The Warriors team are better without him. Let's not forget. Their style of play.
Remember they've lost Jordan Poole.
They've lost DiVincenzo.
Yeah. Their offensive style of play starts with Draymond Green. Bringing in a point guard like Chris Paul, we are saying that he's going to change their offense. But when he's out, they can go back to their same style. I mean, they still have their main players, the likes of Steph Curry. They have Klay Thompson there, who, if he's going to stay consistent. Now, you see, the second thing that also separates a team from a contender and a pretender is the consistency of players on that roster. You look at Steph Curry. Steph Curry is going to give you that kind of consistency. So, you see, they are a team that you cannot write off and put them at the pretender list because they can worry. They can stress you out. And Steph Curry is a championship kind of guy. When he's in the mood, he's going to worry. So I think they are contenders, but they are not going to win it.
Well, they have a chance of winning it. Teddy, how do you view the Warriors season? Because with what George just said, I feel like he has them maybe making an NBA Finals.
Yeah, before I go start, Charlie, we will not be thieves, but with the Bostons.
You're not really Celtics, so
Charlie.
You give with the Warriors.
See, if Steph Curry is the greatest shooter on God's green earth that we've ever seen and will ever see, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson are the best shooting backcourt the world has ever seen and we will ever see for a long time.
Yeah,
maybe unless Jesus Christ or somebody come born again. we don't know. And they have CP. CP on the 2022 team with OKC. That was a young team. He took them to the playoffs. And he went to Suns. Suns had never been to the playoffs since 09-10 season. He took them to the playoffs. And you see, Chris Paul has a way of making players good because he knows how to find you at your good spot. Look at how he made 18 look like he was a good player. But when he was off, 18 was a bad player. So now look at how Kuminga is playing. Look at how Moody is playing. So you see, I tip them as being contenders because if you have Steph Curry on your team, you have 80% chance of winning it. Look at the season they won against Boston. It was like, agro, then take the thing.
Interesting.
So I tip them as contenders.
Well, for me, if I'm viewing a contender and a pretender, for a contender, I'm looking at 2 strong things. You have to have championship pedigree and roster construction must be good. For the Warriors, championship pedigree, 5 green ticks because they are a dynasty. They've won it all. But for roster construction, I feel like they still do not have someone to come off that second unit and give them the scoring that Jordan Poole did in 2022. So for me personally, I've got them pretenders, but it seems like the majority has them as a contender. Now from West, let's move to the East where we have the newly contracted Milwaukee Bucks. Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Teddy, I'll start with you on this one. Bucks, contender or pretender?
Contender. High contender, very, very much. Like adding a player like Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has been on the Blazers team for quite a while. His whole life. And now he comes on a new team and then he's highly motivated. bringing such a player adds more fire to your team. The team was already fire, but he comes with this kind of fire because he wants to win. So he puts his all into the game. And Damian Lillard is obviously a closer. Last season or previous seasons, whenever it's the last shot to be taken, everybody knows it's at the combo. He's going to drive into the paint and try to maneuver his way. But now, even when he tries to maneuver and gets into the paint, he knows he has a closer in the name of Damian Lillard.
They've got two strong closers.
And Middleton is also a closer. And then they have the Twin Towers. That is Lopez and then Giannis. Both on the offense, on the defense. They're able to spread the floor, which is, see, right now, it's so amazing how they can spread the floor from 1 to 5. From 1 to 5. And it's scary. And even on the, you see, there's this saying that defense wins you championships, but the offense sells you tickets. They have it. They have the offense that is selling the tickets, and they have the defense that is winning the game. When push comes to shove, and it's the last play, look at the Kumbo's play on 18 last 2 years. See, if it was not for that defensive play, they would have.
But remember who stole the ball first? Drew Holiday. He's not there anymore.
No, he's not there anymore. But then they have the likes of Jay Crowder to do that kind of dirty work. Yes, Malik Beasley to also do. So the team is really set.
Well, Teddy has the Bucks a strong contender, and I don't blame him because roster construction wise, championship pedigree looks like they have it. George, what do you view the Bucks?
The Bucks, they are also contenders. This is a team that is going to guarantee you about 50 wins in the Eastern
50 plus wins, definitely.
They are one of the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. Now you look at the Bucks. Last season, their problem was getting a closer. This season, they've got a closer in Damian Lillard. But you see,
well, they did have a closer, but Middleton was injured.
That was when injury comes in. Mm-hmm. If injury would allow Middleton, like if injury was not there, Middleton would just give them another run like they did in 2021. But unfortunately, he got injured. Now you look at this backside. Defensively, they've lost Drew Holiday. But let's not forget, they are still one of the top 4 teams when it comes to defense. But last season, their problem was to get an offensively potent player. And they've gotten this player in the name of Damian Lillard. But you see, I sat here the last time and I said they need depth. Because even in their recent match against Atlanta Hawks, we saw them lose to the Atlanta Hawks. Let's not forget, Damian Lillard.
They have depth.
They have depth, but they don't have depth in my eyes. They don't have depth in my eyes.
You feel like it's only the starting five that has the quality.
When you're talking about depth, it's not about the number of players you have. It's about the players stepping on the court when your main players are out and giving you numbers.
They still have the same
players. Because there's still Bobby Portis. I think they only lost Grayson Allen.
They have Cunnington.
These players, looking at the start of the season, I always say that this team has no depth. I'll keep on saying it and I'll say it.
Well, let's end with that one because the Bucks feel like a very strong contender with that Damian Lillard trade. The only problem I have is maybe in this year it's a new roster. They'll have to figure things out with the new coach and everything.
I had some takes with some guy on Twitter. He's saying that their coach, Adrian Griffin, is not going to lead them anywhere.
It's his first year as head coach, so let's see how that goes. Now, sticking in the East, a team which has a lot of problems going on. The James Harden saga, the Philadelphia 76ers with the current MVP. Do they feel like a contender to you? They are a pretender.
They are a contender if Embiid stays healthy.
If.
That's the only condition. If Embiid stays healthy. Last year, regular season MVP. Look, Embiid is one of the most skillful bigs we have. He's able to create his own shots. Off the pick and roll, he's able to pop, he's able to roll, get into the paint, get his own shot, he's able to create his own shots. On defense also. And you have Maxey. Look, now this Harden saga is out. I think before
it's not out yet. He's still creating problems.
Before the season started, they interviewed Maxey and he said he had been training as a shooting guard the whole offseason and then you have to transition into the point guard. And look, for his last 2 matches, he has been putting up 30 plus. Excellent. Look, now we have unlocked a new Maxey. And it takes only a guard and a big to win a championship. You don't need much. And a few rotational players.
Pieces. How do you view the Sixers for this one?
You see, as he said, if Embiid will stay healthy, then they are contenders. But I have them as pretenders. From your criteria you raised, the championship pedigree.
they don't quite have that. Do they have a player on the
Nuggets
team
never had
that has
that.
been to the finals?
Nuggets never had that.
That has been to the
Nuggets never had
Don't
that.
compare.
Nuggets did, but they had a player who had won an NBA
Don't
championship.
compare.
Just that in the locker room. KCP on the Lakers, he's won before. Just that in the locker room. I know maybe the Sixers might have one or two.
They have PJ Tucker.
And of course, Danny Green.
Is PJ Tucker? Then you come. Is PJ Tucker going to render you that consistency?
PJ Tucker is-
Look at the Nuggets side. Jokic and Murray, they'll give you that kind of consistency, game in, game out.
Maxi and Embiid will give you that same consistency day in and day out.
Bro, let's have this on the Sixers. But for the Sixers, if Maxi can be an all-star guard, then Charlie, we are in for a very long run for the Sixers. Now, to another big team where I feel like maybe I know where the answers are going to in the offseason. And in the quest for a championship, it has to start from the offseason. How you are going to construct your roster. And the Suns, it seems like they were ready for it. Trading for all-star guard Bradley Beal, boosting their chances of winning an NBA championship. George, contender, pretender for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, contenders, 100%. You look at this Suns team, from the head coach to the team itself, they are actually set. Frank Vogel will lead them to something. He will lead them to the Western Conference Final. He will even lead them to the NBA Final. Because this is a team that is playing so well with the likes of Bradley Beal and even Devin Booker sitting aside. If there are two main players, that there are two bigs that complement KD are outside and they are playing so good, they are matching off teams. How much more they get them inside? They are going to dominate. And I tip, because see, this roster as compared to the 2021 roster is kind of better than that kind of 2021 roster. They went to the NBA Finals. Now look at this roster. Look at the manager they have. They are contenders.
The Phoenix Suns, Frank Vogel, very defensive. Last year, we complained of their defense. George has them strong contenders. What about you, Teddy?
They are contenders if two of their stars. Yes, if two of their stars can stay healthy.
But last year, two of their stars stayed healthy. They work
Devin
out.
Booker has started showing us signs of injuries. KD has a history of injuries. Bradley Beal, obviously. Nekic, obviously. And they don't actually have a backup center. Bobo is cannot really be trusted. And now they have Eubanks. Eubanks is not really, he doesn't have that experience. Look, KD is the greatest shooter the NBA has and will ever see. And you have the likes of Booker. Booker since last season playoffs has been amazing. The best player on the team in my point of view, the best player on the team. And you have Bradley Beal, who is able to move the ball, find players, and then run the play. Nevertheless, these three players can average 90 points a game every night.
It's highly possible.
Highly possible.
Exactly. And for the Suns, I feel like what makes them high contenders is these three can create their own shots.
Yeah.
And the ability for KD to create his own shots, and the three can also be spot-up shooters. If you've got KD in the corner, you kick it out to him, he can still make that shot. That's why the Suns are really high contenders. But of course, injury can come to play here. Now, staying in the West, where things might get a little bit interesting. Now, we've gotten to probably my favorite part, my Los Angeles Clippers. And with all of our problems, all of our injury history, I'll start with our sellout man here who left the Clippers and went to the Lakers. George, your former team, the Clippers, do you have them contenders or pretenders?
Oh, pretenders. You see, when I started, I said my criteria for selecting a team, whether that team can be a pretender or a contender, is injuries and consistency. You look at the Clippers roster. We have players. We have our three main players, Kawhi, Russ, and Paul George. Kawhi, if he will stay healthy, will help us. But the problem is Paul George. Paul George, if he could be that consistent,
Consistency.
As
That's the key word.
As he has always been on his podcast, he renders all his time and all his ability on the podcast rather than showing us on the court. Because you look at that 2021 run, it was an amazing run. But it was rather unfortunate to see Kawhi sit out because of injury. But if injury doesn't come into this Clippers team, we have a chance. But Kawhi will not guarantee that.
You can't trust Kawhi and Paul George with the injuries. Teddy, Los Angeles Clippers, everybody had them. After they constructed that new roster with Kawhi and PG, people had them winning it all. Then we saw injuries. We haven't seen the two of them have a deep postseason run when both of them are healthy. Contenders or pretenders?
Contenders if George and Kawhi are available. Look at Westbrook's performance last year and even in the playoffs. Him alone, he was able to do so much. So imagine Kawhi and Paul George were added to that, they would have obliterated that Suns team completely. And Kawhi, if Kawhi is healthy, he has the best winning percentage in the whole NBA history. If he's healthy, he's dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
And one of the best postseason players as well.
And Paul George went on that long injury and he came back. Look, Paul George is a pure scorer. He's a pure baller. All he needs is for his main man or his other man to be healthy, and then that's it.
Well, my Clippers, I have a lot to say about my Clippers, but we'll keep this one short. The main problem I have is, how do we score in the clutch? I've seen this last year against the Bucks. This year I saw it against the Jazz. Who has the ball in the final moments? I know Kawhi is the main man, but when he's struggling, we have to find the hottest shooter. Against the Jazz, it was supposed to be Paul George. I don't know what happened there. Hopefully, they work things out, and maybe we might find another trade where we might make us a strong contender. But for me personally, I think the Clippers are pretenders. Now, at the most controversial team on this list, you don't know where to place them because they can put a surprise anywhere. We are speaking of last year's NBA finalists. The Miami Heat culture, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry, they are all still there. The core is still there. Tyler Hero is still there. Teddy. With Miami Heat, because we don't know where to place them, making them a contender is very difficult. Calling them a pretender is also very difficult. But where do you have them?
Contenders.
Wow.
Pure contenders.
Oh,
Look,
okay.
they still have Bam. They still have Jimmy. They have Kyle Lowry.
I won't cut you. I thought you use your if statement. They are only contenders if your
There's
team,
no if.
if your team and the Bucks don't stay on track, because you continue.
for the Miami Heat, I feel like they do have a chance with all that Bam does and then Butler does. Now, staying in the East, another big team that made a very big trade. I feel like probably the best team in the NBA right now, Teddy's own Boston Celtics. I think you might have them strong contender.
Strong contenders. We have the best defensive backcourt in the league right now. Look at our game against Philly, against Miami, White, and then Drew. Look, if you are a guard and you are going for a layup, it's going to be so hard for you this season. Our defensive prowess, our defensive walls are so high this season, and we have Porzingis who's also showing us he can also contend with the big men and
now,
give us that
George,
defense.
for this one, I'll put you on the sidelines for this one for the Boston Celtics because, of course, it was Teddy's team. Now we'll move to the last two teams on the list. The Denver Nuggets, 2022 NBA champions. They only lost Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. Do you still have them high contenders?
They are going to win the chip again. Bro, they are 3-0.
But it's still early days.
They are playing so well. I said, you see, that Denver Nuggets roster, they had, you see, injuries and consistency once again. With consistency, all the ticks, they get it. But the problem here is injuries. Will Jamal Murray stay fit? Because if he's fit with Jokic, they are going to be one of the deadliest. I tip them to still be the top seed in the West because they are playing so well. Jokic will give you that consistency. Right now, I'm seeing that he's even improving on defense.
Exactly. Now, for the Nuggets, I think it's very important that Jamal Murray stays fit. But now, for the last team which ends it all, probably the most popular team among, in fact, Ghana NBA and, in fact, the whole of the NBA, the team looking for banner 18, your very own Los Angeles Lakers. It will be 50-50 here.
I know the Lakers.
Your take on the Lakers. Are they a contender or a pretender?
Pretenders. If you started the show and you told me to outline my pretenders list according to maybe the odds to be a pretender, Lakers would be the first team on my list. Bro, this morning I got up and I asked on Twitter, what's the difference between Darvin Ham and Ghana basketball high school coaches? One person said the difference is he having a US passport. Bro, you look at this Lakers side. We thought off-season trade they won. We thought they are going to be one of the scariest teams in the league this season.
But it's still early days.
They had the likes of Taurean Prince. Bro, it's still early days, but when you are seeing some...
The signs are showing.
When you see some...
So where your first statement, you made mention of Darvin Ham. So do you feel like if they get a championship pedigree coach, it makes them a
You don't need
contender?
a championship pedigree coach to win. Look at Frank Vogel. It was his first time and he won. You don't actually need that title to win a championship.
You need a championship pedigree coach to win.
No, that's a lie.
Cool down.
I think it's a plus for you, but if the coach is good enough, you can
Yes,
still win.
yes. You don't actually...
If you have your players not playing so good, it is up to the manager to set up a play. To just look at this Lakers side. Consistency. AD. AD.
Anthony Davis. I feel like on this show, every time we speak about Anthony Davis, but that's how we wrap it up for this one. The purple and gold are looking for the 18th NBA championship. Now, that's the whole list. The 9 teams, I feel like they have a strong chance. I left out teams like the Dallas Mavericks, the Sacramento Kings, Atlanta Hawks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, because I feel like they do not have what it takes to compete against these 9 teams. But that's how we end this one on the Prrrr Basketball Show. We'll catch you some other time. More interesting things to talk about.